All right, now let's talk about the top bets of the week. For the record, I was 2 out of 3 on my bets last week. My one loss was I said the Falcons plus 2.5 against the Colts. When I made that proclamation, I didn't know that Pat McAfee was going to be in there hyping up the crowd before the game, banging the anvil, and just getting everybody just fired up. If you don't know Pat McAfee, he's one of the most electric figures in the world. He's probably the funniest ex-football player that there is, and he's just a beloved character in Indianapolis. He gets the crowd fired up. The team's undefeated when he bangs the anvil. So after I found out Pat was going to be banging the anvil, which is like a pregame ceremony that they do in Indianapolis, I knew that the Falcons were doomed to lose that one. So here's a good bit for you. If you ever hear that Pat McAfee is going to be banging the anvil, the Colts are 3-0 when Pat bangs the anvil. Bet the Colts money line. But that's enough of last week. Let's look forward to this week. My first bet of the week is the Jaguars +3 against the Broncos. And here's the thing is I just don't think the Broncos are a very good football team. This game is in Denver, which, it's Mile High City. Denver always plays very well at home compared to on the road. They gave the Bears everything that they could handle. They really should have beat the Bears. But that was more Trubisky just being really inept at quarterback in that game. The Jaguars, meanwhile, every week Minshew just looks better and better and better. Even when he came in week 1 in relief, when Nick Foles got hurt, he looked good, man. He looked good in that week. It was just against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs had already amassed such a lead. I mean, there's no coming back. It's going to be a tough day to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at a football game this year. You know what I mean? And then he looked even better in week 2 against the Texans, who I think are for sure a playoff caliber team, probably the team that I got winning that AFC South. Just a great freaking division, best division in the AFC for sure. And then last week, Minshew just, was looking phenomenal. If D.D. Westbrook had, a pair of hands on him, that score line would have been way, way worse. I believe the game was 20-7 anyways. And Minshew is just, playing great. He's super, super accurate. And they're +3 against the Broncos. Like, I got them winning in money line. I think the bet that I like is the money line bet because they're +145 on the money line. I love that bet. I think that they're going to win this game for sure. The Broncos don't have a good offense. The Jaguars have a phenomenal defense. The Broncos have a decent defense, but their strength is really the pass rush. Leonard Fournette's going to be able to hopefully get loose. And if Leonard Fournette can't get loose, that's because they're stacking the box. And Minshew's just too accurate. They're going to be able to put up some points. I like the money line, like I said, because you get a better return on your investment, ROI. But if you're a little bit nervous about that, +3 points. So if you just want to take them with the spread, I mean, I definitely like them in that as well, because it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think either way, I don't think the Jaguars are going to put up a ton of points, but the Broncos are definitely not going to put up a ton of points. Even if the Broncos do win, I bet you it'll be by a very small margin. So if you're a little bit apprehensive to go with money line, you don't mind giving up a little bit of ROI, then you can go +3 Jaguars. But I like the Jaguars money line. The next bet I like is the Chiefs -6.5 versus the Lions. And this is no beef to the Lions. The Lions are a really good football team. They're way better than expected. That NFC North is for sure the best division in the NFC. And I think that's the best division in football, because I think the Lions are probably a better team than the Bears right now, you would have to say. Unless if the Bears blow out the Redskins tonight. I haven't seen that game yet, like I said, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But if the Bears don't blow out the Redskins tonight, then I would put the Lions above the Bears in that division. Lions are a good football team. They have great run defense. Matt Stafford can spread the ball around on offense. They've got several playmakers. Amendola and Hawkinson are good underneath guys. And then Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay are an amazing duo of outside wide receivers. They're like the 1A and 1B They're like wide receiver 1A and wide receiver 1B. It's not a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 situation. Marvin Jones is not that much worse than Kenny Golladay. Having said all that, Mahomes is just out of his mind, man. I thought that he was going to regress this year. That's definitely not happening. It looks like he's going to improve on his historic season from last year. Right now, he's averaging nearly 400 yards per game. He's on pace to break the single season passing yards record by a country mile. He's on pace for 53 and a third touchdowns on the year. This guy is just, he's rewriting what being a good quarterback means. Like I was saying to some work colleagues, I might have even said this on the show last week, Patrick Mahomes is doing to the quarterback position what Roger Bannister did to the mile run. If you don't know the story about Roger Bannister, is basically that a lot of people theorized that it was physically impossible for a human being to run a sub 4-minute mile. Like it was literally, your heart would explode. A human being can't do it. Roger Bannister did it. He was the first guy to do it. And after he did it, I don't know what the exact number is, but dozens of people did it in a very short period of time after he did it. Because after he did it, people realized that it was possible to do. This is what Mahomes is doing. He is rewriting and allowing people to reimagine what is possible to do with a football in your hand. Getting the Chiefs to be less than a touchdown favorites against just about anybody. I love that bet. 6.5 points. They're less than a touchdown favorite against the Lions. The Lions are a good football team, but I would pretty much take that bet against just about any team in the NFL. Now, my last two bets both come in the Falcons versus Titans game, and this game is in Atlanta, where Matty Ice is really clutch at home, and the Falcons are only -4 in this one. You have to imagine that Jacksonville just dominated. I believe it was by 13 points. I'm going to check real quick. Yeah, it was by 13 points. They beat the Titans 20-7, and that's Jacksonville. Now, Atlanta has a much, much, much more potent offense. Sure, their defense isn't quite as good, but man, that Titans offense is pitiful, man. They have one player that's really dynamic on that offense, and that's Derrick Henry. The Falcons have a good defense. They only have one thing to stop, and that's Derrick Henry. I think that they 4 points? That's all they're favorited? I thought that was insanity. They should be 10-point favorites, in my opinion. So that's just a ridiculous bet. I'm not saying that the Falcons are going to put up 30 or 40 points. On the contrary, I think that they will only put up around 20 points, 24 points, somewhere in that range. But the Jaguars are only going to put up like 6 to 10, or the Titans are only going to be able to put up about 6 to 10 points, something in that kind of a range against the Falcons. So I love the Falcons -4. That blows my mind that they're only 4-point favorites. I was saying the same thing about them being 2.5-point dogs last week, but I didn't know Pat McAfee was going to bang the anvil, man. 4-point favorites in this one against a terrible, they've looked just horrible on offense, Titans team so far this year. I love that bet. But the bet that I love even more, my favorite bet of the week, is the under bet on this game. I hit on my under bet last week, Jaguars and Titans. I'm going to like it again this week because the Titans D is pretty good. And the Falcons, I think, are going to have a command of the game in terms of tempo, in terms of score the entire time. So they're not going to look to put up 35 or so points. Like I said, I think they're going to be in the 20 to 24 point range. And I think that the Titans will be in the 6 to 10 point range. The over-under on this game is 45.5 points. 45.5. The maximum I see in this game is like 35 points. So I adore the under bet in this one. Don't sleep on the over-unders in games. I think that over-unders are more predictable than spreads. Spreads are basically 50-50 bets. Over-unders are supposed to also be 50-50 bets, but I think it's a lot more exploitable. It's a lot easier to predict what a total score in a game is going to look like compared to, a team minus or plus a certain amount. So that does it for my bets of the week. Once again, I like the Falcons -4. I like the over/under in that game. I like the Chiefs -6.5, and I like the Jaguars money line, or +3, but money line is what I really like.